The ongoing events in town have city leaders asking questions and analyzing police force. Austin Mayor Steve Adler joins us live on Skype this morning. Thank you so much for your time and good morning to you.
Good morning. It's good to be back.
Well, this week, City Council plans to discuss police and policy reforms. The purpose of 8 Can't Wait. Let's talk about how it will help reduce police violence. Tell us what it is. Give us some examples if you can.
Sure. The 8 Can't Wait are 8 principles that were developed by folks that both in and out of law enforcement, really to take a look at policing and to make sure that we don't end up with the kind of situations that we had here this past weekend where as a community, we're looking at what's happening and feeling like there was a disproportionate amount of force that was used, and a lot of people who were just expressing the First Amendment rights ended up getting hurt. So of the 8 principles, the city's already signed off formally on 3. We practice some of the others, but we're going to make them part of the policy. So it's things like not using impact munitions, tear gas on people that are just exercising First Amendment rights. It says that deadly force can only be used in certain very limited situations. It includes things like prohibition against shooting into a moving car. It's trying to demilitarize police. It's taking a look at police, recognizing they have a real important function with crime and enforcement of our laws, but also trying to make policing work better in today's world.
And in light of the demonstrations, protesters being injured, many of our viewers did not understand the recent vote for the Austin Police Department grant. Can you explain what the money was for and your reasoning behind it?
We were offered a grant to fund the detectives that are doing the work on auto theft recovery. I think that one of the things that the police should be doing is dealing with auto theft, because there's some real important functions that police have. If we had not taken that money, we would have had to fund auto police detection, auto theft from somewhere else, which would have drawn money from somewhere else. We would have created a gap. We could still create that same gap if we wanted to and take money out of wherever it would have come from and put it towards something like mental health intervention. I didn't want to create the gap without having the opportunity to be able to put money to a use that we would want to have in the community. There was no more money put to the police budget by the action that was taken last week. But the debate really turns to this week, because this is the week when we actually start taking a look at the police department and the police model that we want to have in this city. I'm not sure that going forward, and do not believe that it's the proper role of the police to be our mental health professionals and frontline people. That's not a job that the police want to have, or there are certain functions that we have given to the police over time that, frankly, they're not the people that are trained and the experts to do. We don't have to have someone who's a sworn officer with a gun doing those kinds of functions. And this movement that's happening right now is really giving us the opportunity to be able to change those things, to make sure that we're actually having people doing the right job. There are some functions that the police do that we could civilianize and probably do better.
And Mayor, a big issue we now have is lack of accountability. I know you mentioned that in your letter as well. Some city council members have openly called for new leadership, starting with the resignation or the firing of the police chief. What do you have to say in response to that?
Well, for me, the most important thing is making sure that we change the model that we have for policing. I've said long for over a year right now that the answer to homelessness in our community is not making that a police responsibility to move people around the city, but but really to take folks and put them into homes, put them on paths where they can restart their lives and take care of themselves and become increasingly more self-sufficient. That's the function that we should be doing to take care of homelessness in our community, as opposed to policing. I think if we focus on how it is that we want the police to be able to transition, then the leadership questions follow from that, because we need to be able to make sure that we can move to a new place.
And last question from me right now. I know you're going to speak with Brian in a bit, but you wrote a letter this weekend reflecting on the protests and the troubling times that we're in, and you said a peaceful future together requires truth and reconciliation. What would you like to say to the family of Michael Ramos who are awaiting justice?
Well, one, as I said the weekend when it first happened and those videos were shown, very hard for me to look at those videos and explain what happened, justify what happened in those videos, which is why I think for an accountability and transparency purpose, it's real important that the district attorney is taking that matter to a grand jury. And I think that's the appropriate thing to have happen and an important thing to have happen in our community. We need to make our police department better. There's a history in Austin of people, mostly people of color, that are dying, or getting shot, or getting killed in situations where the community looks at it and says that just shouldn't have happened. Mike Ramos, I believe, should still be alive now, and I think from when I look at that video, I can't explain why that's not the case. So to her family, as I have said to her, we will provide the accountability and the transparency to investigate that and to hold, to see that justice is done, and to make sure that we're accountable for that incident.
Mayor, thank you so much for your time. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, our conversation with Mayor Adler continues. You're watching Daybreak.